Welcome, everyone, to the Flower Files podcast sponsored by Wildly Native Flower Farm. Here, everyone is welcome to talk with fellow flower lovers, including real perspectives from the farm, the flowers, and me, the florist.
From the messy day-to-day operations down to the details and even business perspectives, this podcast has a little bit of everything to keep it real. We know that life can get crazy and we don't always have the time to spend on what we love, so we are here to help you take a little time to indulge in nature. I'm Liza Getz.
I'm Lizzie Frey, and we are the team that makes this podcast. Every once in a while, we have a couple guests, this business thing, and what we are working with is called life.
Join us as we walk you through how to think outside the box, talk from the farmer's perspective, have honest conversations about florals, and how to run, well, life. So listen in.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, in the podcast section, and any of your other podcast platforms. You can also find us online at wildlynativeflowerfarm.com, and in an easy way, you can look in the show notes, and all of the information will be right there for easy access for you guys.
Why, hello there, Flower File friends. That's always a mouthful. I wanted to start off this week by sending you a great big huge thank you, welcome, all things wildly native. A little chilly still. We're still in February, but I am thrilled that there are finally some signs of spring. Did a little happy dance today because there's some things that are growing in the greenhouse, and it's just, it's finally time. But one of the ways that I started my Monday this week was I had a phone call. And after that, I had a second phone call. And then I had a third phone call. And I sat down and I really looked at my schedule and I thought, I spend a lot of time on the phone, which makes sense as a business owner. But I realized where I am today in my business compared to where I was 3, 4, 5 years ago in the business. When I have a phone call, I don't have that anxiety anymore of, oh my God, I have a phone call. Now what do I do? Because every bride is different and every bride's story is different and every couple's story is different. I wanted to take a little bit of time today to just talk about how to talk to people, basically. So I feel like it's natural when you get started in any business. It doesn't matter what it is. You talk to friends and relatives at first, and that really boosts your confidence. It's easy to talk to them. And they come to you because they want to support your business. And the support is heartfelt because these people love you and you love them. And it's easy. It's super easy that way. The more you do, the more confidence you have because the more you learn, and there's mistakes that you make too, and that's perfectly fine. And you're building connections and you're understanding what to do and things like that. But when you have that first phone call or second or fifth or 25th, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it can be a little nerve-wracking when you have to talk to a complete stranger. And one of the things that I've always been super passionate about in my business is making sure that nobody feels like they're just processed. I never want any of my customers to feel like I'm that vendor where they chose us. We're going to come in, we're going to give them a contract, we're going to have them sign it, and then we show up the day of and here's your flowers. I never, ever, ever want to do that because a wedding is filled with so many vibrations of happy and positive. And truly, this is all about love. And think about not just the love that's between the couple, but the love of the parents, the love of the friends, the love of the new family that you're gathering around with you. That's what it's really about. So for me, I want to know their story. I want to know their connection. How did they get started? Where did they meet? What happened? So my goal today is for you guys to understand how to make those same heartfelt connections. So, what are some of the words that we use And what are some of the questions that we ask our brides so that we have a clue as to what they're looking for? Because I want to know what their vision is. I want to know what they want. What are they expecting? And what are they picturing? And for me, right out of the gate, it's not about, well, can we hit their budget? What is their, that doesn't matter. I want to know what their story is. So that's one of the first questions I always ask all of my brides is, I feel like when you first get on the phone call, there's the, hello, how are you? And it's a little more formal. I feel like there's many times where brides are very ready to just, okay, I have my list. I'm going to go through my checklist. We're going to get these things done because there's a long list of things that everybody has to go through. And let's face it, they're also talking to multiple vendors. There's lots of different vendors who have lots of different perspectives, but I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be what everybody else does. I want it to matter because it matters. Those flowers in those pictures are going to be with them the rest of that couple's life. And it's important that it fits. And it's important to us that we fit. So I want to make those same connections. So I always start my phone calls by asking my couples, if they're both on the phone, or if it's just my bride, to tell me a little bit about them and what their story is. And I think those first 10 to 15 minutes that I spend with them, learning their story, hearing how they met, you can hear the smile in their voices as they describe their story. Sometimes people are very chatty about it, and before we know it, there's like 20 minutes into it, and they've told me their story and how they met and how they got engaged. And it just, one thing leads to another. And then there's other times where folks are a little more quiet or private, or maybe just not good communicators. I mean, not all of us are. So maybe their story is a little bit of a top line version. So it's really neat to hear different folks' stories, to hear how they met, to hear what are their jobs, where has their relationship gone based on other factors in their life. I ask those questions also for a couple other reasons. I also ask those questions, especially about jobs and things like that, because I want to know if, for instance, let's say somebody's a physician's assistant and they are just now getting married. I know that their schedule is going to be probably pretty crazy. So when I send out that proposal, I know that that person probably isn't going to look at that maybe for a day or two when that proposal comes out, depending on their schedule. But I know if somebody is working at a job where they have more access to their laptop and time to check personal emails and things like that, those folks may check their contracts and some of their proposals and things like that a little quicker. So I always like to know who my bride is so I can meet their expectation and I know how to interact with them as well. So I don't ever want anyone to ever feel pressured or stressed or anything like that, because let's face it, the whole planning process can be super duper stressful. So I ask those questions. First of all, I've been able to meet some absolutely incredible people and have formed connections and have built friends out of some of these complete strangers that choose us as their wedding florist. And it's amazing to me. The second thing is it helps me understand where they could be coming from. Um, when you're making some of those initial phone calls, one of the other things that we've learned over time is life and traditions have changed. So in the past, it may have been very intuitive for folks to say, when they're talking about the wedding pieces, I try to take everybody's story first. I want to understand where they're coming from. I ask them how they picked their venue. If I'm talking to somebody from Arizona, why are they getting married in Maryland? What is their connection? And I love hearing the story of people sharing how they pick their venue. Some people walk in and go, this is it. This is what I've always pictured, because they've done a lot of background research. And then there's other people who get married on a family property because family's super important to them. There's other folks who go and tour a whole bunch of venues and they find the correct one because it's the right fit. Um, there's a lot of different ways and reasons that people have picked their venue. And that again helps me understand their story. It helps me understand where they're coming from. The other thing that I like to make sure that I'm sharing with folks all through the process is when we actually start to talk about the individual pieces. When we're talking about those, I want to take them through the day because the first thing that comes that day are the personal flowers. All of those personal flowers arrive, and that kind of sets the tone for the day. Bouquets and boutonnieres and hair pieces, corsages, all of those personal things really set the tone for the rest of the day. I can't tell you how many times we've heard, oh, when we walk in, or somebody yells, the flowers are here. Like there's so many things that really, really make flowers such an important part of the day that I like to make sure that I'm walking through that process with them. We start off talking about the bouquets and the personal flowers. They share stories with family. The new trend of having grandmothers as flower girls is just amazing. Hearing the stories about their nieces or nephews or the flower dogs that people have. We have a bride who's going to be doing pictures with her cat. I mean, there's so many personalizations that happen that are just so incredible, and it just makes such a difference to the whole day. Once we start to go through there and we start to get through some of those nitty gritty details and we start talking numbers and what does it look like and how do we have the counts and have you considered this? I always like to frame it with questions of people and important moments and pieces like that instead of, okay, how many boutonnieres do you need? It's like, okay, how many folks in your wedding party do you have? One of the things that I've learned, and I stumbled, quite honestly, I asked a bride the one day because traditions have changed. I asked her, is your dad walking you down the aisle? Because that's been tradition for many years. But life has changed, and our people that love and support us have changed. And instead of asking that question, I now ask folks, do you have someone special walking you down the aisle? The gal that I asked that question the one day of, is your dad walking you down the aisle? She said, no, my dad has passed away. And that's when I realized I needed to think about it in a different perspective. And I really needed to make that connection differently because I never want to upset anybody when they're talking about their wedding day. I want it to be this positive, bright, and beautiful space. And when I asked, is your dad walking you down the aisle? It made me take a step back and go, okay, what if her parents were divorced? What if she doesn't speak to her dad? There's so many layers of things that it could be that I just didn't want it to be an issue. So we asked that question a little bit differently for that purpose. I also like to kind of go through once they've gone through and they've picked all of their different pieces and they've really gone over all the different visions of the day. I then like to really help them understand what the next steps are. Well, I maybe feel a little uncomfortable sometimes talking about money and budgets and just all of those things. Because let's face it, it's sometimes awkward to talk about money. People need that from you as the leader in the conversation. So although it may be uncomfortable, it's expected and okay to ask that question. So when you're going through and you're saying, okay, next steps are, it lets people know that you're aware of their questions. And sometimes they don't even know that they want to know that question. But I always let them know next steps are, we will work on your proposal. You'll have it within this time frame. We break things out into this many number of payments. Here's the other expectations that you can look for from us. And many times folks will ask us questions about, do you have an idea? No, I don't have an idea as to what it's going to cost because I haven't had the time to do the math. Because you're set up for a specific site and size and vision is going to be different. Everybody's is going to be different. And I'm always so afraid I'm going to make an error or I'm going to spell something incorrectly. And so we always take the time to meet with the team and everybody looks at everything to make sure that it's correct. I never want to come across as like a telemarketer. So, how you talk about money, I ask, do you have an ideal budget in mind? Sometimes people absolutely have a budget in mind. Other times, people are very honest and they say, I have no clue. This is the first phone call I've made. So, what I'll share with those folks is not a problem. And I like to give folks different options on their proposals so they can take a look. I try to make sure that they know that it's okay. And we are going to work with them to understand where all of the money is going. I try to make sure pricing is as transparent as possible, not, have great big lump numbers, but have it broken out. And then I think there's that final end of the call. It's the thank you. And I'm always incredibly thankful for folks when they've shared their story and they're able to talk about perspectives and look at all of the different options and all of the different things. It's really, really important. And I think the biggest thing when you're talking to a bride is know that you care and listen to them and connect with them. So connect with them so that you're not coming across as just, hey, I hear you're getting engaged. Congratulations. That's so exciting. That's such a standard comment. So personalize, 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 ask questions, listen. Make sure you listen more than you talk and just have fun. Take that anxiety out of the question. Get rid of that anxiety because they're calling you because you're the professional. They're calling you because they want you to help them. They're calling you because you're going to guide them through the story of their day. So, just a real quick little tidbit on how to talk to brides. Bottom line, listen, ask questions, and have fun. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope your real quick trip to maybe the grocery store or the gym or just errands in general is successful and you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye, guys.
Hey guys, just dropping a line to tell you about Patreon.
So I asked them, meaning Mom and Amber, what is Patreon anyway? Because I honestly had no idea. So we're going to explain it to you from our perspective so that you understand and so that I understand.
Because the first time I saw it, I was like, Patron, we're drinking tequila? Great. So Patreon is for less than a cup of coffee, those fancy coffees that y'all like, a day, you can sign up to become one of our members.
A little family.
Exactly. And what does that get us?
It gets us some freebies, some special episodes that other people do not get access to. You can interact with us on a special platform where we can ask you questions and interact with you. It's tons of fun.
Mm-hmm. And even on those special episodes, we might be less censored than we are already. And we're going to have a couple fun ones that we can just kind of throw in there and talk about and laugh and go on tangents and have fun. So I hope that you all enjoy it because we're going to have fun along the way. We're crazy, crazy, crazy excited.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Back to the episode now. Bye.
Gracias.